Right, good morning boys and girls. Are you ready for part 2 of our processing? So let's just remind you once more. Processing says we start with raw materials, we process them by doing something to them, and then we end up with a final product which has got different properties to the things that we started with. So today we're going to do some more things. I've written up a little piece of paper, and I'm sure you will see it, of what we are going to do today. So we're going to do mixing and setting, and we are going to be using plaster of Paris as our example. It could have been cement, it could have been concrete. Polyfiller is really very similar to plaster of Paris, so we're going to use that as an example. Then we're going to go to mixing solids and liquids, and we're going to make a paste. You've already done the crumpet making, I hope you've tried it at home, or else you can do it soon. And the other one that you are going to do on your own is the jelly making. And then finally today we're going to look at mixing, drying and firing. Those are the 5 things that you need to do for processing for grade 5. So let's get started straight away. So plaster of Paris is made from gypsum, which is a rock that they dig out of the ground, and then they grind it up and they heat it, and then we get this fine powder. But the interesting thing is that it sets. So when we talk about setting, we mean that something is liquid and then it will take a shape, and we can set it in a shape and it will keep that shape. So that's what we're going to do there. So I've already put some plaster of Paris powder in here. I put about 4 teaspoonfuls, and now I'm just going to add some water to it, and we're going to mix it until we get a nice paste, and then we're going to make a brick. And in fact we're going to make a couple of bricks with this, because we need to have some bricks, and we're going to do some reinforcement. So you can see on the side here I've put out things that we can use for reinforcing. Reinforcing means to make something stronger by adding something to it. So we've got sand, and we've got sticks, and we've got some gravel. So we're going to see how strong brick we can get. So now I've got a nice lumpy paste here, and I'm going to mix it nicely until we get a good paste, a smooth paste. It's quite runny, but that's okay. It's going to set. Plaster of Paris sets nice and quickly. In about 8 or 10 minutes we will have a nice thick paste. So I've got an ice tray, and I'm just going to put some of this into one of these little corners, and then we're going to put the rest to be reinforced. Alright, so now we're going to put in a little bit of sand. I'm just going to use my fingers. We'll chuck in a bit of sand there, and then I've broken some sticks into small pieces. And if you have time, you must look at the videos that I'm putting the links on there, because you're going to see they do exactly this. They take some straw, and there's a guy who puts it in and he stamps it in and mixes it all very well. So now I've got a really mushy mix here with all these things. I think we can put a few more stickies in and a bit more sand. Alright, and now I'm going to pour that into my second brick, and we're going to leave that to set. There, can you see all those lumpy things going in? And they tell us that especially the straw and the sticks absorb some of the water, and it makes it dry a bit quicker, and it makes a very strong mix. So there we are, we've got our 2 polyfiller bricks. I want to just show you here, this morning I made one, and they've set very nicely. I tipped it out here so that you can have a look at it. It's not dry, but it is, it's taken the shape, and we are going to have a little polyfiller brick there, and we can have a bit of fun with that later. Right, so that's polyfiller. We can leave it and it sets. It's runny, and after a little while it will become hard. Right, the second one we have to do is mixing a solid with a liquid to make a paste. So the solid we've chosen is flour, and once again we're going to use some water. So I'm going to turn this into a paste by adding the water into this, and again I'm going to mix it. Now this is an interesting thing, flour and water. Do you know that when I was a child we didn't have stuff like Pret glue, and this is what we used to use to make glue. So we would mix the water with the flour and get a nice lumpy paste. Ooh, I'm going to run out of water here. And then we'd even cook it, and it would make a really sticky substance, and then we could use it to stick things and pictures in our books. We didn't have the internet like you guys do. Right, so you can see I'm getting a nice thick paste here, and let's just mix this up. Right, so while this is going to stand a little bit, we don't want it to set yet, we're going to just get this paste. I want to show you something that you can do with this. If you read in your textbooks, you will also see they talk about using it as glue, and that's why we've got these other activities sheets that are on the table here in front of me, and I'm going to just quickly revise that for you. So what you need for this activity is a ruler, a pencil, your scissors, a saucer of some sort, and a sheet of paper. So what you're going to do now first is you're going to divide that paper into 2 pieces. So I've cut mine up into 2 pieces already, and then you are going to work with these with only one of these pieces of paper. So there's one of them. So what I've done with this paper is I've measured. I've taken my ruler and the pencil and I've measured and drawn a line there, 8 centimeters, 8 centimeters, and 5 centimeters. Then I take the saucer, and this is what we put it on, by the side where you've got the 5, and make sure that your saucer sort of meets more or less at the place of 5, and then you're going to use your pencil and you're going to draw a semicircle there, and then you are going to cut it with your scissors. Right, so here is an example of what I've done, and you're going to fold it on those ones so you can make like a little envelope. Now the idea is that you're going to choose someone in your house that you want to write a nice message to. We've been in lockdown now for a long time, and I think some of us are getting really irritated. And maybe you just want to write a nice letter to your mom and tell her thank you for looking after you, giving you food, helping you with your homework and all the other stuff that you're doing for school. Maybe your dad, maybe he's been sitting around getting a little bit unhappy, and you want to just tell him you appreciate the fact that he wants to work and that he is looking after you nicely. Or maybe what about your bigger brother or sister, or your younger one who's had to play games that aren't their age-appropriate games with you, just so that you've all been happy in your home. So write them a little note. This is what I did with mine. I chose a little bit of scrap wrapping paper, and I cut out, there was the template, and then I decorated it on the inside just by cutting out some of the pretty hearts. If you do this, just be careful that you choose the right side up for that little flap. Okay, and now we're going to use our glue, and we are going to glue this so it's going to make a little envelope. Alright, so I haven't written my message in there, but I've got people I can say thank you, even the person who is busy doing our videoing today. So you're going to take your glue and you're going to just put a little bit along the edge here, all the way up, a little bit more, just spread it nicely. And there's a little activity in your books that you're going to do, so please keep your eyes open as to what is happening to the paper when we use flour glue. Alright, so now I've got some nicely stuck there, and now I'm going to just close it, but I'm not going to put the last bit there because maybe you still want to put a little knot inside. Alright, so I'm just going to put my ruler on top to hold it down, and the scissors, and you'll have to leave that a little while for it to dry. So, paste is the glue that we've just done. So, we can say we have done our mixing and setting. We did have a nice red cookie here. We've done the mixing and setting. We've done the mixing the solid and turning it into a paste. So this one is again your homework, making the jelly. Hope you can do that and enjoy eating it. And now we're going to do the drying and firing. Right, so we're going to make a little clay brick. So I've got the clay here. So this is ordinary dry clay. You can see it's like a rock. And I've broken off some pieces and mixed it up nicely into a really thick, stodgy paste here. So this one we're going to make a brick. We're going to do exactly the same that we did to this with the polyfiller one. We're going to put it in. And of course this is going to take a long time to set because clay is made of very, very, very tiny little particles. They are fine mud pieces. So when you see those videos, you're going to look at them, they're going to call them mud bricks because that's actually what it is. Alright, so now we're going to reinforce it by putting in some of the little stones, the gravel, and some sticks, lots of sticks. And then we're going to put in some sand. You'll notice the quantities aren't all that important. You'll see in the videos the guys use a lot of sticks. But it's this consistency that we're looking for. It must be a nice, thick, podgy mix. And now we're going to put it into that lovely word that we had, homogeneous. Do you remember the word homogeneous? It means everywhere the same. So you've got to mix it to make a homogeneous mixture. I'm going to learn lots more about that next year. Right, so I'm just going to give these a little knock. Try and get them a bit flatter. Maybe I've made this one a little bit too stodgy, but that's fine. So we're going to leave these now for them to set, and soon they will be dried, and then we will put them in the sun like this one and let them sun dry. But we know that when we have bricks, they don't just sun dry them, they fire them. So I have a tiny little brick, I'll put it here so you can see. That's a fired brick. There they took some clay and they mixed it with water, and I think they put a bit of sand in it, and then they put it in a kiln or an oven, and this is when they heat it to 800 or 900 degrees centigrade. That is really, really hot. Your mom's oven will go up to 200, 260 maybe, but 800 degrees, and that takes all the moisture out, every bit of moisture, and it makes it really, really hard and strong. So now these little bricks, or the ones that they use to build your houses with, they are very strong. They don't just break very easily, and they can withstand a lot of pressure, and they make a very good house or building structure. Right, so boys and girls, there we've done our processing. You will see that our bricks have got very different properties than the materials that we started with, our raw materials. Our paste doesn't look like the flour and the water anymore, and it's got a different property. Now it can glue. That powder cannot glue on its own. So we have changed the properties by mixing and by setting or gelling or heating like we did with the crumpets, and so that is what processing is all about. I hope you have a lovely day. I hope you're going to make some crumpets, and maybe you want to go and play around with some of these products. I'm sure you will find some polyfiller or some plaster of Paris. You can get it at Dis-Chem or any of those chemist shops, and try and make some molds. Right, nice to see you again. Take care, go well, bye.